Welcome back. Last time, we entered the world of the economic hitman. John Perkins showed us how loans sold as development were really weapons of control. He sat with ministers and other government appointees and high-level public officials selling billion-dollar projects that looked good on paper but were impossible to repay. Tonight, we go deeper, because Perkins insists this just wasn't just history. These same tactics kept running. They were reshaped, repackaged, but never abandoned. So let's recap. In the 1970s and 80s, Perkins was on the ground. In Ecuador, he pitched hydroelectric dams, loans that would bury the nation in debt while U.S. firms like Bechtel cashed in. In Panama, he negotiated canal-related infrastructure projects, ensuring the country stayed dependent on Washington's money and policies. In Indonesia, he met with ministers and sold them billion-dollar power plants and ports. The debts crippled government. The profits flowed home. And he admits what he once called development was really entrapment. Greetings and welcome again. I'm Dr. Christy Agawu. If this is your first visit, thank you for stopping by. If your curiosity is piqued, stay with me and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, John Perkins confesses that everything he did revolved around four goals. 1. Geopolitical control. In Panama, canal contracts ensured the country's economy and its leaders remained tied to Washington's orbit. 2. Guaranteed profits. In Ecuador, flashy dams meant U.S. firms got paid. The money circled back to America, and Ecuador paid the bill. 3. Dollar supremacy. Every loan was denominated in U.S. dollars, reinforcing global demand for the dollar with each repayment. And 4. Political insurance. In Indonesia, ministers were persuaded into billion-dollar projects. If leaders played along, they enjoyed Western backing. If they resisted, their government risked isolation or worse. In the 1990s, Perkins says the faces of the hitmen changed, but the machinery stayed the same. Consultants, lawyers, and lobbyists replaced the old salesmen. The IMF and World Bank perfected structural adjustment loans. In Ecuador, mounting debt forced leaders to sell oil fields and slash social programs. In Panama, dependence on U.S. loans meant never straying from Washington's orbit. In Indonesia, Western corporations kept profiting long after the projects were built. But Perkins didn't stop there. In his 2016 new Confessions of an Economic Hitman, he warns that the playbook had spread to every corner of the globe. Take the Seychelles, a tiny island nation in the Indian Ocean. On paper, development loans funded roads, airports, and harbors, but behind the scenes, those projects secured U.S. and Western presence in a strategic shipping corridor. The government carried the debt. American and European firms pocketed the profits. In Honduras, Perkins points to infrastructure loans tied to agribusiness energy projects. Roads and dams looked like progress, but they locked the country deeper into dependence on U.S. corporations and reinforced Washington's grip over Central America during the Cold War. In Vietnam, after the war, Washington sought to bring the country into the global financial system. Loans were used as tools of reintegration, but always on terms that made Vietnam reliant on Western institutions and consultants rather than fully sovereign. And in China, John Perkins describes a new twist. By the 1990s and 2000s, U.S. firms weren't just exporting aid contracts. They were setting up joint ventures and financial arrangements that tied Chinese growth into the global corporate web. The economic hitman model wasn't just a weapon for fragile states anymore. It was becoming a way to bind even rising powers into the same cycle of debt and corporate capture. And his most shocking claim: by the 2000s, the empire's methods had turned inward. Subprime mortgages, student loans, complex Wall Street schemes, they became debt traps for citizens inside the United States itself. The empire, Perkins argued, had begun feeding on its own. And looking back, Perkins admits that what he once believed was development wasn't truth entrapment. Debt became the leash. Infrastructure became the excuse. And the ultimate goal was always the same: geopolitical control, guaranteed profits, dollar supremacy, political insurance, the very things he had once been paid to deliver. So, if John Perkins is right, the economic hitman never really disappeared. The faces change, the tools evolve, but the core playbook, debt, contracts, control, they persist. Which raises a bigger question: who is holding the strings now? In our next episode, The Secret Hands of Global Power, we'll trace how this strategy spread beyond Latin America into Africa, Asia, and even the US, and ask who benefits when entire nations are kept in debt. Stay tuned. And if this conversation stirred your curiosity, don't forget to like, to subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss what's coming next. And I say stay well till the next time.